Hello and welcome to From Dial Square to Where, Mesut Island Discs. I'm Andrew the Hinkley Gooner, I should say, and I've got two brilliant guests with me today. One that's never been on the show before, and that's Glen. How are you, Glen?
Very well, thank you. Nice to be here.
Fantastic. And Melvyn, who has been on before but not for quite a long time. Melvyn, it's great to have you back. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Seems like a long time ago. Probably wasn't actually, but it seems like a long time ago. Thanks for asking me on again. Really appreciate it.
No, no problem whatsoever. It's a pleasure. And in fact, we haven't actually spoken for a little while. The last time we spoke, Melvyn, you were rehearsing for a play, and I presume that was all for nothing in the end.
It was, yeah. It's supposed to be obviously done in March. We cancelled it a week before the lockdown came. Luckily, we wouldn't anyway, and we're doing it in November, hopefully. So all that learning those lines may have come to. I've got to save them in my head now.
What is it? What was the play?
No,
what was the play?
It was.
What was
oh, I can't remember what it's called now. It's a fan. I'll get it to you later. My wife will get the book. I've no one mate. It's Death by Fatal Murder. That's it. Death by Fatal Murder. It's really funny.
Murder's fatal.
My youngest, who's 13, is a bit of an actor, and he was in Treasure Island.
Oh, right.
At quite a good theatre, not at West End, but quite a good theatre. And the theatre closed 2 days after the final performance. They just made it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really lucky.
Yeah,
and I was supposed to go to Kenya to work. And 2 days before we were due to go, Kenya shut its borders. So it's probably just as well we might have been stranded out there. I wouldn't have minded personally, but I think the rest of the team might too happy about the idea.
Yeah. Well, Glen. People may.
Music.
I bet that's a bit of a blast from the past for you, maybe.
It is.
But people may recognise you from your time on the ITV News and Sky News. But we've just been talking off air that obviously you've been doing your own work recently, but unfortunately that's not been able to sort of go ahead. But you must have some great stories from your time as a news reporter, a senior news reporter, I should say, and you must have covered some very interesting stories in the past. What sort of would you say would be something that you mainly sort of remember as being a sort of very exciting time to be doing your job, but at ITN or Sky? What?
Thank you for putting it that way. Because what I hate is when people say, "What was your best story?" or "What was the most interesting person you've ever interviewed?" But actually, I think the best time, or the most interesting time, was a long time ago now, but probably 1989, and the fall of the Berlin Wall, because I covered that. And then we covered the Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia, and then we covered the fall of Ceausescu in Romania. And after that, we were looking around, Eastern Europe, thinking, where's next? Bulgaria looks a bit wobbly. What about Albania? But of course, the next one was the end of the Soviet Union. And that was followed by First Gulf War, and then the breakup of Yugoslavia. So the early 90s, lots of war zones and stuff. So that was the most kind of, I suppose, historic, in terms of eyewitness to history time. And all the politics I did, because I was political correspondent at Sky, so I stopped doing all that kind of mad. When you're young, bags packed, passport ready, that's great. But when you get married, you've got kids, things change, you need a more sedentary lifestyle. So at Sky, I did politics.
Yeah.
And covering general elections was amazing. And just, living through the whole of the Blair years, the Brown years, and the Cameron years was some pretty interesting times.
Well, I can imagine.
Yeah. For example, we were at the Glen Eagles summit, and the news came through that Britain, had won the Olympics, the London Olympics. And I've never seen Blair so happy. He was actually bouncing around like a puppy. And then the next day was the bombings in London, and I've never seen it. It was like watching the Prime Minister go from the ceiling to the floor. It was just talk about change of mood overnight. Wow. So interesting times, lots of them.
Absolutely. Obviously the times that you spent in the, during the Gulf War, and have you ever been sort of felt seriously under threat during those times? It must be very dangerous places that you've been to during there and then.
Well, yeah. I felt scared, but never really kind of, they're shooting at me. because generally they didn't. Although in Yugoslavia that changed because the Serbs were targeting Western journalists. But I've never been in a position where I felt, they're aiming at us. But I've certainly been scared.
No, but you still anything can happen, can't it?
Yeah, it can. Yeah, I've been scared a few times, but you take a risk assessment and you make a judgment.
Wow.
I know. Well, I bet we could do a whole show just on some stories that you've actually, that you've got.
Well, I keep getting told to write the book, but I'm too lazy. I'm supposed to be writing it during lockdown, but it's not happening. I just watch telly instead. It's terrible.
Oh, just dictate it. Get someone to ghostwrite it for you.
That's what I should do. Yeah, just tell it. Yeah, you're right.
Right. Well, again, offline before we started, we've had a quick chat about how long we've all been sort of Arsenal fans, and I can tell you that without giving everyone's age away, it's been a long time since we've all been Arsenal fans. I think there's quite a lot of years between a lot of us, and there's going to be a lot of stories.
Well over 100 years between us.
Very much so, yeah. Very much so. So I'm sure we've all got our own different stories. But just quickly, thank you, Stan. Good morning from Vancouver, he said. Well, good morning to you as well, Stan. Evening here, obviously. But we're going to move on to the whole reason for this show today. And the idea came for me about doing this after watching the Ian Wright Desert Island Discs. And during the time that we're in at the moment with absolutely no football whatsoever, it just made sense to perhaps do an Arsenal slant on the old classic Desert Island Discs, which I call Mesut Island Discs, for no other reason than it rhymes. It's got nothing to do with Mesut Ozil unless you choose it to be. But the schedule being that there's one Arsenal goal that you can watch on repeat as often as you like whilst you're on the desert island. One game that you'd love to be able to watch over and over again that you'll never get tired of. There's something that's special to you, maybe. There's a game that you're able to wipe from history, just to throw in there, that maybe never happened, or you could change the result of. And then we move on to a bit of the musical theme, which goes along the Desert Island Discs type of area, which is one song that you would use to summarise the Wenger era for you, one go same way but for the Unai Emery era, and one for how you're feeling potentially. I know there's a bit of projection to do, but how you're feeling generally with the very early days of the Arteta era as well. So let's move on to you first, Melvyn. With your choice for the goal, what goal would you be happy on the desert island to be able to watch whenever you wanted, over and over again?
Well, this one is there's loads of Wenger ball goals that I could have chosen. But this is take away from it here. But let's go before that. The one I love watching time and time again was the Liam Brady one away to Spurs when we beat them 5-0. We took it and smashed it in the top corner. And also, I loved about that was the celebration. Because I don't know if you recall, he went to the Arsenal fans, obviously, behind the goal. And then he was running back to the halfway line. And the Spurs fans were giving him a lot of verbal. And he just stopped, went towards them, put his arms out to them, just stared at them. And they were trying to get over the fence. I mean, it was just a great moment. It was amazing. And that was that goal. And it was the little build-up we had as well. And it was just fantastic. It wasn't the last goal. It was a fourth goal out of the game. But it just... that should have been the last goal because it was so good.
Well, it just showed the world how good he was at that particular point as well, didn't it? It really brought him to the forefront of at the time, and just it was a fantastic. The amount of curl he got on that was just beautiful.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind that if that was in this day and age, it wouldn't be so uncommon the amount of curl he got on that ball. But those balls they were playing with at the time, very, very hard to do. Very, very hard to do. What about you, Glenn? What was your thoughts on your favourite goal?
That was a fantastic goal, and I was really spot for choice. If we're talking about the Wenger, Wenger ball, that Jack Wilshere goal against Norwich with the tippy tappy from Santi and Olivier Giroud, and that was phenomenal. But I think also I'd have to include, Bergkamp's amazing goal against Newcastle, the famous one where he lobbed the defender and then hit it on the volley. Yeah. Any goal by Thierry Henry, I mean, they're all amazing. And I also really enjoyed the Hull Cup final. We were 2-0 down, if you remember, after less than 10 minutes, and everyone around me was despairing. And I said to my son, who was about 8 or 9 or something at the time, "It's all right. It's only Hull. We'll come back. We'll win it." And then Santi scored that great free kick on about 25 minutes. That was amazing. But my favourite, the one I would watch again and again and again, such a cliche, but it's got to be Michael Thomas, Anfield '89.
Yeah,
got to be. It's got to be the one. Just the most. I was working. I've been working on the. I covered the Hillsborough disaster that year, and I was working on the inquiry in Sheffield. And my picture editor was a guy called Ronnie Lakeman, who was an even more mad Arsenal fan than I am. And we just finished our piece for News at 10, and we were watching the game, on a separate monitor. And we hadn't yet fed it, so we hadn't yet sent it by satellite to London. And he just went absolutely bonkers. He went running around the hotel, ran down to reception, kissed all the receptionists, male or female, and was just running around the place. And I had to reel him in and get him to press the buttons to feed this thing before we could go out and get properly drunk. But that was just such an amazing moment. And, and against all the odds, as we've all seen the film, right? And we know the story. Against all the odds to go to Anfield at that time and win by 2 goals. And in the last minute, you couldn't make it up. It's just incredible.
I don't know about you two, but when he kicked the ball, when he was through, Thomas, he kicked the ball. The world had stopped. Everything was in slow motion. Yeah. And my brain, I remember to this day, I was slowly getting off the settee, like the film. I was slowly getting off the settee. I was thinking, what if he misses? Yeah. That would be I wouldn't watch football again. I'd be so upset if he misses. To be so close.
Oh my God, yes. Oh yeah. And he seemed to take forever to do it, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I listened to a podcast today where he was on, which is the Athletics podcast with Amy Lawrence and James McNicholas, the Handbrake Off, and he was on there today with Lee Dixon as well. And it's just so calm. It's so cool and calm. Yeah. It's just it just seemed like time stopped when he was just like, just shoot the ball, But he knew exactly what he was doing. Yeah. But honestly, his calmness in that situation was unbelievable. But apparently, David Rocastle, who's my favourite player, at the time he thought there was about 20 minutes to go.
Really?
They'd lost all, because there's no clocks in the stadium or nothing. There was no countdown, or no one knew how long that was left at that point. I mean, I'm not saying all the players thought it was 20 minutes left. No. David Rocastle just thought, I thought there was about 20 odd minutes left. And when he realised, he said when he actually realised what the time was, he just couldn't physically, his legs just locked up. He couldn't move his legs. He was that racked with stress. Yeah, it's just what a moment. I mean, I've told this before, and apologies to anyone that's listening on audio after the event or listening to it. But on that night, I stood up and went to race out to the garden, and I kicked the bottom of my sofa and broke my toe when that goal went in. And I was just like so high on the moment. I didn't really care at that point. I just still carried on running outside, just hobbling, and it was very, very painful afterwards, after the event, but I didn't care at all at that point. Yeah, what a moment. That's you can't really say anything against that. Either of those 2 goals were brilliant, both brilliant goals, brilliant moments as well. Now, I'll stay with you on for the next one, Glenn. I'll go to you first on the game that you're happy to watch. All the time, over and over again.
I hate to be boring. I hate to be boring and repetitive, but it's that game as well. It's the Anfield '89 game, because it was just, the backstory is so incredible. Liverpool hadn't won in months. They hadn't lost in Anfield in months. They hadn't lost at all for a long time. We were slipping. I think we lost and drawn our previous 2 games against Wimbledon and Derby. It should have been 6 points. We should have been champions. We had to go there and not only win, but we had to win by 2 clear goals. That whole backstory. And then what a fantastic game. Even watching it, knowing the result, which is, usually a bit boring because there's none of that tension. You still feel the tension, even, watching it now. Still feel that kind of, every moment of that game was so intense, especially in the second half. And the most phenomenal ending. I mean, as I said earlier, you could not write it. You couldn't make it up. People wouldn't believe you. So that's my favourite.
That's certainly one game you can never ever get tired of. I mean, again, after before we started rather today, and I said I'm not really one for watching old games because there's no jeopardy. It's just a bit, what's going. That game obviously is completely separate from that. I mean, you can never get tired of that. And if you put a script in for a book, it would get rejected, wouldn't it? I mean, it was just the fact
absolutely.
that it was the weird.
Unbelievable.
Thing, because of Hillsborough, it shouldn't have happened then, that match. It should have happened a couple of months before, shouldn't it? In April, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
The fact that it was the last game, everyone else, all the other footballers were on holiday already. It was after the season had finished, technically. So, it was just mental the way it's all went out. But yeah, I totally appreciate that.
Was that the first time that a league game had been on live on television? I think it was, and I think that was someone I read somewhere that Sky realised how many people watched it that Friday night. They thought, oh, we got onto something here. Perhaps we should get involved, and that's why Sky got involved.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we watched it live, so I don't know if it was the first, but it was definitely.
I think it was
live.
the first. I think it was the first.
Amazing.
Yeah, I know, and it's the first time they ever put a clock on the TV screens as well, counting down. With about 10 minutes to go. It never happened before, apparently. But also, another weird thing is, they sort of cut to the 10 o'clock news on time. They didn't sort of extend it like they would nowadays. I think they cut all the celebrations off the TV.
I remember that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, but the game was over about 1:45, wasn't it, or something, about 1:45, so it was all right.
It was a Friday night. It's never been happened on a Friday night either.
By the
So
time I got Ronnie to calm down, feed our material for the 10 o'clock news, it was about 5:02. So yeah, and then everyone cuts to the 10 o'clock news.
Well, you couldn't script that better either because of everyone going out and celebrating. Got all weekend then, hadn't you? So, I mean, fan wise, it was just perfect. I mean, I was a bit too. I mean,
I drove to Highbury that evening. We met some friends. We drove to Highbury and celebrated for a couple of hours. It was fantastic. Carnival. Yeah. 11, 12 night. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I was 16 at the time, and I was a bit too, just that tiny bit too young to go out and get leathered. But well, I wasn't. But I don't tell my mum and dad that. But anyway, let's go to your game then, Melvyn. What's your choice for the game that you got? Choice.
Some game that I really appreciate. It summed up Arsenal at the time. This game, what were all our values, which I think we've lost now. It's when we played away to Manchester United, beat them 1-0 when we won the league with Wiltord scoring the winner. Yeah. The reason being, they were the champions at the time. Though we were higher than them in the league, we needed a draw, only a draw. And you say only a draw. Old Trafford then was a very good result. We needed a draw to win the league. But they were trying, like they normally did, when they couldn't beat us with football. When we were a better football team than them, they tried to kick us off the park. Yeah, as usual. And the way we stood up, I've seen that game recently. The way we stood up to them, we gave it back to them, and we beat them. Not only we levelled with them on the way they tried to kick us off the park, and we actually beat them with football. Vieira that day was immense. He ran the midfield. I know Keane was on the other side, but he just ran that midfield, and we had heroes that you don't normally talk about, like Wiltord, for example. His running was fantastic. Off the ball, he's moving into space, holding the ball up, beating players. And also Carnu played up front. We didn't have Henri that game as well.
No,
and we had Adam that game. So it was a mean feat. We had people like Edu coming in, who I thought fantastic footballer. But we just, and I was also, I tell you who played well that game. I mean, they all played well, let's face it, but really stepped up to the plate with Parler. An unsung hero, really, because in that team we had world-class players, and Parler was a fantastic player. But being a fantastic player to what a world-class player, there was a little bit of a gap. So people forgot about Parler, but what he did for that team was fantastic over the years.
He was very, very underrated, as was Edu, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Run for Pele.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mentioned the name of James McNicholas earlier, and Gunner blog. He said once on, I can't remember which podcast it was on, whether it was the Arse blog or whether it was the Handbrake Off one, but he actually said, I'd rather watch Ray Parler than watch Mesut Ozil most of the time. And he explained it, and I totally get that, because what he lacked in technical ability, Ray Parlour, he more than made up for in heart and hard work, and his work ethic was incredible. You know,
and he could play as well. He could play as well.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he was a poor player by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm saying if you compare the technical ability of someone like Mesut Ozil against him, obviously he does lack that. But I'm not saying he's a bad player at all. But yeah, his heart and his desire and his, he never gave anything but his all for the badge.
He also scores some great goals. But he was one of those players with fire in his belly, and that's one of the problems we have with Mesut Ozil. For all the silky skills, he doesn't seem to have that kind of grit and that determination to, I mean, let's look at Alexis Sanchez, who I thought in his first season for us was phenomenal. Every time he lost the ball, he was like the kid in the playground you've nicked his ball. He's going to get it back. And Ray Parlour had that, and Mesut Ozil just doesn't have that, and it's really frustrating.
It was another comparison between the two is that if you played away to United or away to Liverpool, who would you rather have in your team?
Yeah, Ray Parlour every time.
Only one player to play for you. He's all right playing at home to the lower teams, perhaps, than away to a very low team like Mesut Ozil. But when it mattered, the away to Chelsea's, Liverpool, Man United, you can name it. Parlour.
You play him at home against Lugaretz. Play him at home against Lugaretz. He'll score.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Or carry a bag or someone. Yeah. Well, hello, Ray, as well. Thanks for watching. And Ryan as well. And Stan, obviously. Ray said he enjoys all the North London derbies and the many 5-2 wins, but the one with Sanya, where he started the comeback, very good match as well. Stan's put Will Todd also was a very underrated player. We totally agree.
Agree with that,
He had very few games that season, but he did play quite a lot. But when you can just bank on someone like that when Henry's out, and Carney was only a sort of a squad player, if you like, as well. He was never a starter, but the work they put in on that night was fantastic, wasn't it? Yeah. Another one Ray's put is beating Barca at home 2-1. Well, that was an incredible night. And Stan's put Ray Parlour was very unlucky with England caps as well. He really was, and he was obviously competing at the time with mainly David Beckham, wasn't he? And
Scholes.
Yeah, well, Ray Parlour was more on the right for England, wasn't he? I don't think he was ever considered as a central player, which is a shame. Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree, Stan. He was very unlucky with England caps. Now
we had the problem with Huddle, didn't he? He had the aggravation with Huddle. That's why.
Yeah, it's short back and sides. That was hilarious. I love that story. And the Ray Parlour story that gets me every time is the one where it was Keown, and it was the last game of the Invincibles season, and Martin Keown had to get on. He'd already arranged it to go on for the last couple of minutes so he can get his 10th appearance, so he can get a medal. And Ray Parlour he noticed him. He kept going up and down to remind Wenger to put him on. And he kept saying to Ray Parlour, he's going to forget. He's not going to put me on. I don't want to get... And it got to literally within the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game, and he was panicking like mad that he weren't going to get on. And Ray Parlour got up, started stripping off. And he said, "What are you doing?" He said, Wenger sent me on. And he was just winding up. And Keown got so wound up, he literally got Arsene Wenger around the neck and said, "You're not putting him, you're getting me on." And he just winded him up all along, and he just thought it was hilarious. That's what Ray Parlour all over, wasn't it? Yeah. But it's probably my favourite story of him. Now, Glenn, it's your go, and I'd like to go to you with the one Arsenal game that you'd be quite happy to wipe from history, as if it never happened, or change the result of. Which one would you go for? There's plenty as an Arsenal fan, unfortunately.
Well, I've chosen 3, but I'll tell you which is number 1. But the 3 are the Champions League final, Barcelona. Change the result.
Yeah.
Henry scores when he's clear through on goal. I mean, you put your house on him to score that goal. And then we score a winner. In second place, the game that ended the Invincibles, the one, the loss at Old Trafford, which was an absolute travesty of justice. And Mike Riley should be, hung from the nearest lamppost. I mean, that was just you were talking earlier, Melvyn, about Man United trying to kick us off the pitch. I mean, the number of fouls, they should have had at least 2 red cards. I mean, it's just unbelievable, that game.
Yeah,
and the penalty was a dive, and it's just very frustrating. And it just, and otherwise we'd be singing 59-59 undefeated, and it just was so frustrating. But the one game that really pisses me off, that I really wish I could wipe from history, also at Old Trafford. I'm sure you know which one. 8-2.
Yeah, that was my choice. That was my choice.
Oh my God. Oh, I just couldn't believe I was behind the sofa like this.
We had a 6-1 as well, didn't we? There, an 8-2 and a 6-1.
Yeah, 6-1 wasn't very clever either. No. The 8-2 was the one. Oh my God, 8 goals, Jesus.
I mean, that was the end of being pretty much the end of the massive rivalry between Arsenal and Man United that was so good, so brilliant, and that's why I chose it. And I think it really kicked everyone in the gut massively, in the squad and Wenger himself, and I think it's horrendous, absolutely horrendous, and it's just so
definitely
humiliating.
Yeah, it was
humiliating. Going back to your choice of your favourite game, actually, Melvyn, with the 2-0, the 1-0 Old Trafford, I beg your pardon, in 02. Yeah. I had Adrian Clark on last week on this show, and he did one of his tactical breakdowns on that match, which I haven't had the chance to watch. It was I think it went live on Friday. He put it out because it was the anniversary of it, I think, at that point as well. And I mean, the first half, I mean, my God, I remembered it pretty much correctly. First, like you said, Glenn, first 20 or 30 minutes, they could have had 3 sendings off, 3 red cards. And, I mean, we had real backbone at that point. Now, we'll go back to your game, you like to wipe off the face of the earth, Glenn, which I agree with, the 8-2. It was chalk and cheese. I mean, how can we have 2? How can we just sort of change so badly? It was just horrific. It was horrible to watch. Horrible. I know we've had a few bad defeats in the past, but that was the worst for me, I think, and I totally agree with you. What about you, Melvyn?
Well, I mean, that Barcelona one, I went to that game. Yeah, that was a horrible. I was sitting behind the goal when Henry had that chance. It was a nice fight. Smash it in the net, and for some reason he smashed it. The keeper, he had plenty of time as well, but anyway, that's gone. The one that really hurt me more than the 8-2, because after the 5th goal, I'd given up anyway. So, don't worry about, that was horrible to watch. But the one that is, in my opinion, is a what-if game. Our history might have changed. Obviously, the Barcelona one, but when the semi-final, when Giggs scored that goal in 1999, we had everything going for us. We had the momentum. We were lucky to be 1-1, to be honest with you. But after that, we had the momentum. Keane sent off. And then we had Dennis Bergkamp to take a penalty. Game over. And he missed the penalty. And just everything. My shoulders dropped. It seemed like the players' shoulders dropped. And can you imagine that team, a player beating 5 of our defenders? He should have been left with no teeth in his mouth, really, in old days, But we let him. No one let him down. No one brought him down.
Sat Martin Keown on his arse. It was embarrassing.
Yeah. And you think about it, that was, we'd have probably, being biased, won the final. And that would have stopped them doing the treble. And we were in the league with them as well. And it would have given us momentum to beat them in the league. So we could have done, we were that close, I believe, to doing the double again. And that game spoiled it.
Yeah. I mean, what a game that was. It was an incredible, exciting game. Such high quality, I think. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you. And Lee Dixon has said several times he'd never forgive himself for that. He should have just chopped him down. And everyone said, just take him out.
Yeah. Normally, absolutely.
Sorry?
On a normal day, you would have done that.
Yeah, exactly. I don't get it at all. But that was a real knock, wasn't it? And I can't disagree with you. I think we could have gone on to do the double. There's been so many times where we've just we've had seriously bad luck as well with injuries, really bad, which has really derailed us in the past, where we could have won 2, maybe 3 more leagues, I reckon.
Well, you got the Birmingham game. That was so unlucky. Not only Eduardo breaking his leg, which was a nightmare, obviously.
Horrendous.
But in that game, we were 2-1 up and coasting, and Adebayor, all he had to do was put it 3 feet to his right to Bentner, and it was an open goal to make it 3-1, game over. And he decided to take it on himself. You might think he was greedy, but a couple of weeks before that, they'd had nearly a punch up on the pitch to serve him against Spurs. So, and also in the last minute when they got their equaliser, Birmingham,
Clichy.
Yeah. But the guy came behind him, if you remember. He was clearing the ball, he caught the guy, and then the referee gave a penalty, which is, I wish, did Clichy have eyes in the back of his head? I don't think so. But the referee,
but he could have cleared it, couldn't he?
He could have done it, yeah. He made it hard for himself.
He did it, didn't he? And
since we're depressing ourselves, what about the League Cup final against Birmingham?
I was just going to literally just going to say that. That would have changed a lot as well, I think. I've heard so many players' accounts of that, and again, on different podcasts recently, the Arsenal podcast that just started doing the lockdown one, and they interviewed Koscielny. Not Koscielny, Szczesny. Yeah, and I mean, the accounts that you hear of that game, everyone was much more demoralised you could never imagine, and a lot of winning becomes a habit, doesn't it? The same as anything else, and I think if we could have just taken so much momentum from that, that winning that cup, could have given us so much belief. It's well documented how Alex Ferguson nearly lost his job, blah blah blah, and they won the League Cup, didn't they? And in his first season, FA Cup, sorry,
they nearly got beaten in the FA Cup by a low team, and Robin scored the equaliser right in the end, and they were attacking that night. Had they got beat. But they drew and won one leg.
But look at the difference it made with George Graham winning the League Cup in his first proper full season as well. It could have made so much difference, and I think it was a really bad defeat. That was. And
what did Sir Chesney say about it? Because it was just a complete mix-up between him and Koscielny, wasn't it?
I really like Chesney. He's a real character. Isn't
me too. Yeah,
he says that he blamed Koscielny, Koscielny blames him, and they'll never agree on it, basically. But it was just poor communication between the two of them, wasn't it? Really poor.
Unbelievable.
But it wasn't Koscielny's first or last mistake, really, was it, in a big game? So I'm not knocking the guy. I thought he was a good, solid defender overall, but he did make a few sort of.
I think just looking at it, it's up to the goalkeeper to give a clear shout. I mean, that's just my view. I know nothing, but I'm interested to know what they say about it. But
that's probably true, Glenn. But we should have been, not on the day. We didn't play particularly well, but we played Birmingham. And Birmingham, I think, got relegated that year. We should have been 3-0 up before that mistake was made.
Absolutely right.
So
it was poor.
Absolutely.
It was poor. And Stan, the man, he's put Willie Young would have dealt with Giggsy. Yeah, and that's very true.
How do you think he would have done?
That was hilarious, actually. Right, so let's get rid of all the depressing, well, not all the depressing things. I'm sure we've got some more to come, unfortunately. But let's move on to the music side of things. And let's go for you first this time, Melvyn. And if you give us a song to summarise your overall thoughts on the Wenger era. I know a lot of people try and cut it down in the middle and have 2 Wenger eras, the early part, the latter part. But let's just give an overall thought about the whole era of under Wenger.
Well, I chose a song that perhaps cuts it in half anyway. It's a song that probably not a lot of people have heard of. There's a group called Led Zeppelin. Obviously, you heard of them.
Yes.
Show my age. But they did a song, well, they loads of songs actually, great one. It was called Good Times, Bad Times.
That's a really good choice. Yeah, very good.
Don't ask me to sing it, will you?
No,
No,
we won't. Don't worry.
No, I want to keep some viewers and listeners. That'd be
fantastic.
Thank you. That's a great. I mean, you don't have to say any more, really, do you? That's a perfect choice. But I like to think on the positive side when I look back personally, on the whole sort of Wenger. I never thought I'd see football under an Arsenal team like I saw under Wenger, and I like to remember those sorts of times. It was just incredible at times, wasn't it? What about you, Glenn?
Well, it's got to be 49 undefeated. That's my Wenger song. Got to be. That's the Wenger song.
Absolutely. Or he's got a magic hat. Well, it started with Georgie Graham, of course, but
the FA Cup belongs to Arsene. Yeah, I agree. He's got a magic hat.
Definitely.
When I started taking my son to football, he watched a bit of the Graham era, and then Wenger came along. And after about 2 or 3 years of Wenger, I looked at him and says, Jerome, I says, you'll never see football like this again. He thought I was mad. I said, I'm telling you, you will never see football like this again as long as you watch football. No. And I'm afraid I was right.
Yeah. Even the latter part of Wenger's years as manager, there was still some thrilling highs. But don't get me wrong, there was some very sad memories as well. And I feel terrible the way it ended in lots of ways for him. But we still, interspersed with that, even during his worst period, we still won the FA Cup 3 years out of 4. It was just... We'll never see that sort of thing again. And I actually distinctly remember myself thinking at one point that I almost had to pinch myself, the football I was watching on a pitch. And my choice of match that I'd like to watch over and over again, it was a 7-0 match against Middlesbrough, it actually was. Because I chose that one over the Everton one because we actually had a terrible defence out that day, and Middlesbrough were actually quite good at the time, like with Viduka and Mendieta and all that sort of stuff. And I was really quite worried at that point because we had Pascal Segan at left back, and we had Giroud and Senderos at centre half.
God.
I know, and I was just blown away with their whole performance. And we were 4-0 up at half time, and you know how so often you see a match that's 4-0 at half time, it would just be no goals in the second half, it just fizzles out, or maybe one maximum. But we didn't. Obviously, we went and just scored another 3 in the second half. We were ruthless, and it was scintillating football. And like I said last week, it was during that time where an opposition corner against us would count as a goal scoring chance for us.
Yeah.
Where we could 7 seconds later it was in the back of their net because we broke so beautifully. And I thought at the time, I distinctly remember at that match saying, I've really got to enjoy this because this is something that's not going to last forever. And I remember thinking that to myself at the time, that how lucky I was to be able to watch football like this under an Arsenal team. So overall, that's how I sort of like to remember the Wenger era.
Even in the later years, we won the FA Cup, as you said, 3 times in 4 years, which is a phenomenal thing to do. But even in the later years, there were just moments of pure magic. The Norwich goal, Jackie Wilshere's goal against Norwich being one. Aaron Ramsey's goal against Fulham when he started and completed that amazing move. There were just little moments when you saw glimpses of what had been before.
Yeah, we did. We still went out and scored 3 or 4 on loads of occasions, didn't we? Even during when the football was pretty dire, we could still rip teams apart on occasions. And
and we could have won the league. We could have won the league, but for Leicester having that freak year,
I think we could have won the league. I think there was several opportunities where we could have won the league, and we were just terribly unlucky with so many injuries, terrible injuries to so many players at one point. So that's the Wenger era songs from both of you. Now we move on to the Unai Emery era songs, and I'll go to you first this time, Glenn. What song would you use for that?
It's an Arsenal song again, and it's 1-0 to the Arsenal. But the difference being that we sing it during the Emery year and a half, whatever it was, with irony. It used to be that 1-0 to the Arsenal meant, there's no way you're going to score. That's it, game over. Tony Adams will not let you score a goal. Now, then it was 1-0 to the Arsenal with a bit of tongue in cheek and a bit of irony because we're probably going to lose this game 4-1. If I had to choose just a general song, it would probably be "Yesterday" by Paul McCartney.
Because you were longing for it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
Longing for it. But yeah, 1-0 to the Arsenal, tongue in cheek.
Yeah, well, I've already said before my choice for that would be "Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now" by the Smiths. That's what would be yours, Melvyn?
Mine would be a status quo one: down, down, deeper, and down.
Yeah, good one.
But when he arrived,
up this year, if it had carried on and he's still been our manager,
you know what? In the first season, I mean, when he arrived, I thought he was a really good. I'm probably in the minority, but I thought he was a really good choice. He'd won the Europa League 3 times with Sevilla. We got to the Europa League final and then fucked up big time. Sorry, am I allowed to swear? Messed up big time in Baku.
No,
and
swear as much as you like.
That is another game actually that would go in the in the bin with the others we mentioned earlier. Oh God, that was awful. We beat Napoli and Valencia home and away in the quarter and semi-finals, and we went and did that in Baku. It's unbelievable. But he got us to the Europa League final. I know we came 5th, but it could easily have been top 4. And then his first season, particularly we won the Europa League, won that final, would have been a great success. All those little things to careers turn and fate turns.
Well,
he could have gone on to be a great Arsenal manager. You never know.
I think it was down to the White Witch. Obviously, it was that's his excuse.
That's right. Yeah. Let's face it. You say James Pittman should have come fourth. We should have come fourth. We got in a position.
No, we should have come third.
2 points. Yes, you could have done exactly. We needed 2 points out of about 4 games. We had
we had Brighton. Was it Palace and Brighton at home and lost 3-2 and drew 1-1? It was unbelievable. Yeah.
And
horrendous.
For me, I thought no. And the final wasn't that confident. You want to be confident. You're an Arsenal supporter. I wasn't that confident. And we went down. We whimpered out, didn't we? Let's face it. That was probably our worst final performance I've seen.
Why were you not confident?
Because our league form running up to that the last 7 games, we were absolutely useless. That's why.
Yeah.
We had 2 weeks to prepare, though. 2 weeks after the final game to prepare for that final. And that's how we performed. And I'd say half-time, we were just slightly ahead on points if it was a boxing match.
Yeah.
And to go in at half-time, that is where the manager earns their money. And he was I mean, what did he say to them at half-time? Because we conceded immediately and we capitulated.
Well, they reckon at half-time.
Horrendous.
They reckon at half-time what happened, the subtitles machine went wrong and the players couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Well,
we heard that criticism all the way through. And he started so well because we were all a bit bored of Wenger always putting on the subs on the 70th minute and all that. And Emery seemed to actually change things in mid-game, which, Wenger had stopped doing. And he would make half-time substitutions and so on. So I don't know where it went wrong for him. Maybe just his confidence got shot, or maybe it was, as some players have said, that they just couldn't understand what he was telling them. I don't know.
But that's
I felt it started well and then just went,
I think they lost play. They weren't playing for him then at the end. Sorry, weren't playing for him.
No.
I mean, they weren't towards the end. No, for sure.
If they'd have done the right thing and got rid of him after the Europa League final, I think we could have had well, obviously the way things have turned out, we don't even know whether they're going to finish this season. But we could have had the whole summer under Arteta. I think it would have been in a better position. But I just think he's a. I mean, Stan the Man said my Emery song would be "Fall on the Hill," and and Ray says, "Is there a song like A Tale of Two Halves?" I mean, the worst. I mean, imagine.
Well, Nowhere Man.
This season, and obviously ended. It seems like so many years. It seems like years ago to me. I mean, can you remember the Watford game where we're 2-0 up at half time, and the worst second half performance I think I've ever seen. It's even worse than like the Europa League final in lots of ways. And what else going on?
Deeney.
30 or 20 to 30 shots in that second half.
I think they did. Yeah. The thing with that Watford game as well, we were not hosting. We were lucky to be lucky that one, honestly. We didn't play that well, getting 2 goals. And then, second half of the year, we did that. We knew what was going on. It happened about 4 or 5 times in the game. We kept playing out from the back and they kept getting the ball off of it. When it was doing that, and all of a sudden they scored the first goal from it, and then it was all over. We knew our backs were against the wall. They had the momentum, and that was it. Another goal. We got penalty, I think. But penalty. finish up, we're lucky to get a draw out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's move on to the next one, which hopefully, I don't know what that noise is. Let's have a, I think it's you actually, Glenn. I've just muted your mic, so I think it might be coming from you. Yeah, I don't know what it is. But anyway, let's move on to your thoughts on the future under Arteta and what song you would choose for that. I'll go to you first, Glenn.
That's easy. We are the champions.
I like it. I like it. I like your optimism.
Yeah, that's the song for the other. Well, listen, we're undefeated in 2020 in the league.
Yeah, well, I think we're the only team that was as well, aren't we?
Yeah.
I can't help but be really enthused personally as well. But what about you, Melvyn?
Mine's really asking the question about Arteta. My one. It's an old one. It's a bit cheesy. I'll warn you.
That's all right.
Now that we've found love, what are we going to do with it?
Oh yeah,
Very good.
Fantastic. That's a really good choice, actually. Really like that. Yeah, that's a very good, good song. That is for. I chose "What a Wonderful World," which just because of the way it makes me feel, and I think I feel excited. Obviously, I'm being optimistic because we don't know how it's going to happen, but I just got so much faith in the guy. The way he comes across, the way he is with the players, the way he talks, it's just, I believe him. I believe what he says.
So do I.
I completely got loads of faith in him. Now, I think if he's backed by the board, we're on to a winner. But that's it for me. If he's backed by the board. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Now, I'll tell you what though, if this whole transfer situation just collapses, which I don't think it will. I think that it will just make a bigger gap between the richest and the poorest. But if it was, and clubs had to rely on their youth from their academies, we're going to be top two. We could be top two because I'm absolutely excited about our academy prospects that are making their way into the team, and it's more, well, not more exciting, but just as exciting as the 80s and 90s, when we had all those coming through. You know, Parler and Michael Thomas and David Rocastle, and we had so many coming through into the team. And I feel just as excited about this lot coming through. If we have to rely on them, I wouldn't be too bothered, to be perfectly honest.
You know what? One of the qualities of a good manager, one of the qualities, and it's a very important one, is to get the best out of your players. Yeah. And I think he's got that quality.
Oh, definitely.
And that really gives me a lot of hope for the future. You know, let's face it, what he's had to work with the last, 6 months of being an Arsenal manager, he's done very, very well. I know we're 9th in the league, but look where we were when he took over. Where heads were down, we couldn't buy a win. And now we went into every game we go to every game with confidence now. Yeah. You know, so and also he will get the best out of these. He's a proper coach. He will get the best out of these young players. Well, he will bring them through. So, and I think the players that are a bit older, he will define them a little bit differently, and the young ones here bring through and here make better players. Like someone like Nelson, for example, he's borderline at the moment. Nelson, I think, on what he's written, Arteta, that he rates him. So let's see what he can do. I think he could possibly make Nelson a first-team player in a year or two. Really good.
Oh yeah, definitely. Nelson's got huge potential, and it's not just our youth academy players like him and Saka and so on. But look at Martinelli. What a player we've got there. We need to hang on to him. And that, I agree. Looking forward, I'm very optimistic because we've got a fantastic group of younger players. We're quite a young team now, actually, aren't we?
I think, Jed, I don't think I'm saying it too strongly when I say that he could have saved Guendouzi's sort of long-term prospects, personally, Arteta, because he was absolutely desperate for some coaching. And under our Emery, Guendouzi was just running around all over the place like a headless chicken, completely doing what the hell he wanted on that pitch. And I love the guy. I really do love Guendouzi. I love his character and his potential. But I think that Arteta's just come into his career just at the right time, because I think if he'd have gone on much longer under Unai Emery, I think he would have created so many bad habits that would have been extremely hard to shake off. So I'm very, really confident that he will blossom under, and not just him, loads of players.
Yeah, I mean, Guendouzi, like you say, he's very indisciplined.
Yeah.
And that will change and has changed under Arteta. So that's one of the things he can do. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Definitely. And I think that he's been on Reece Nelson, who we were talking about earlier. I think he's been very unlucky that he had a very bitty season, really, in and out the team earlier on, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had a bad injury. But I think if he's got a good run in the team, that he will really blossom. I really do. Let's go through some of these comments just quickly. I'll just catch up on some of these. Ray from Arsenal Fan Circle channel. We can't underestimate how much hunger and hungry players can pull teams through to win silverware. We need these kinds of players identified. And that is a really good thing about bringing academy players through as well, because they're going to have that, aren't they? Being with the team from such a young age, and I think that's going to show as they sort of progress into the first team more and more. Unfortunately, we did not replace adequately losing Van Persie with Giroud, who was decent for us but not the same quality. No, I think Giroud, I'm not saying he definitely didn't replace Van Persie. I think at that particular point it's very hard to, because he was a top quality player, wasn't he? But Giroud, I think he was quite an underestimated player, and we talked about that Norwich goal earlier, and those sort of little touches he used to make in and around the box. I think they were quite underestimated, weren't they? And underrated.
Yeah, and the winner in the whole final, when he took two defenders off to the right in the penalty area and then back-heeled it into the space that Ramsey was running into, and Aaron slammed it into the bottom corner. He was a very good hold-up player as well, and he was a target man. So the goalkeeper kicked the ball out to Giroud. He would head it or get it and hold it. You know, he wasn't. Of course, he wasn't Van Persie, but you know, he wasn't the greatest goal scorer in the world. And actually, when he was one-on-one with the keeper, you could probably bet your shirt he's going to mess it up. But you know, he had lots of qualities that were not. It's not really fair to compare him to Van Persie.
Totally different player. Totally different
player. Yeah.
I mean, I know it's probably quite a controversial thing for me to say, but I have to say what I believe, and what I believe, you know, personally, my opinion. I think I would, in lots of ways, and I'm not saying I don't like this guy, but in lots of ways, I would rather have a good Giroud over Lacazette in some cases. Yeah.
Well, Lacazette's had a very poor season.
I'm not saying that I don't like Lacazette at all. You know, and last season he was the best of a bad bunch, you have to say, in lots of cases. He was our player of the year, but does that mean he's fantastically brilliant? I don't think so. I don't.
Well, let's face it, Andrew. None of our defenders were going to win player of the year, were they?
No, not at all. But I mean, God, going back to Arteta and his magic abilities. I mean, blimey, what he's done with our defence is. But I said all along, they're not terrible players in lots of cases. They were just so exposed by the lack of tactics under Unai Emery. Now let's go on to the last category, which is the film, to summarise what Arsenal means to you. Now, my one just was a never-ending story, because I think obviously my relationship with Arsenal is a never-ending story for the rest of my life. What would be yours? I don't know who needs to go first this time. I'll go to you, Melvyn, first. What would be yours film?
Mine would be Field of Dreams.
Ah, that's a good one. Yeah, very, very good one.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah. No, really I'll say that's a good one. I mean, it's a good choice for that. I don't know whether it's a good film. I haven't watched it, but
good, decent film. Decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a really good choice. What about you, Glenn?
Well, I'm going to go for another Arsenal film and another cliche. You probably should have warned me in advance no Arsenal songs and no Arsenal films.
I know, you can choose what
It's
you
gotta
like.
It's got to be Fever Pitch, because I just identify so much with that film, especially the Colin Firth character, and I just, I'm feeling the same emotions he's feeling, so that's my choice.
Very true.
Yeah,
And
great
I'm
film.
listening to the audio book at the moment as well, which is really,
Who
really,
read it?
I've read it a few times, yeah, but I'm just
Who does the audiobook? Isn't it Hornby?
no, he's what's his name? Rind Tutt, Julian Rind Tutt, I think his name.
Oh, yeah.
There's a Rind Tutt who is a football sort of journalist. I'm thinking it must be his brother or something. There can't be that many Rind Tutts that are around.
Yeah, I can see his face. Yeah,
it's actually, he reads it really well. Actually, he does come.
Yeah.
Good choice. Stan the man. We need to bring through young defenders. I think the last one was Ashley Cole.
Rob Holding.
Well,
Yeah, we're not bringing them through though. Yeah, we bought him. Yeah.
Well, we've got the young centre half coming from France, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
here now.
very excited about that. Yeah.
And I think Callum Chambers has a future as well. Maybe playing in front of the defence.
I'd love Callum. He was having a really good season. He was a shining
He
light,
was.
really.
Yes, he was.
I like him, and
I'm not a lover of Callum Chambers.
well, I
think he's adequate at best. Adequate footballer at best. He's the type of footballer, when he does something good, you praise him. Whereas good players, the good players just do it and you get on with it.
He's a perfect squad player, though, isn't he? I'm not saying
He's a squad player, yeah.
I mean, he can fit in so many places, and once he does get into the team, he gives it his all, doesn't he? And I'm not saying
win
the league.
No doubt about that. Yeah.
If he's a starter, you're not going to win the league with a player like Callum Chambers. However, I think I'd love to keep hold of him. Because he could fit in, like you say, Glenn, in midfield, if needs be, as a defensive midfielder, right back and centre back. So yeah, very useful. I do like him. I do like the guy.
Yeah.
He would have been better years ago when you're only allowed one sub. He'd have been perfect.
Oh, perfect! I know. I think he's the sort of guy you chuck on up front in the last few minutes as well.
Playing striker, playing in goal.
Will the club use the current economic climate as an excuse, legitimate or not, this coming window? I don't think it's an excuse. We're not going to buy anyone, Ray. As far as I'm concerned, all these rumours, it's just ridiculous. I mean, there's no one in the world who would love Thomas Partey more than me, because I've been going on about the guy for months, but it's just not happening. I mean, anyone that thinks that we're going to give all our players or ask them to take a pay cut and then use the savings that creates to buy more players, then they're just deluded, and people have got to understand that there's only the clubs that are owned by states or oligarchs or whoever, the richest of the rich. Everyone else is not going to be able to go out and buy players like that. It's just not happening. So I don't think it's any kind of excuse, Ray, and it's my opinion. We just ain't going to have the money. Simple as that.
It could work both ways, though. I've said it before. We won't get as much money for the players we need to sell. But I've said that the players that we want might come down in value. But I don't think it's working out in favour.
Yeah, absolutely. But all it's going to take is the new owners of Newcastle to go out and buy, I don't know, name the player, say Thomas Partey, for example, and go and meet his... And then it starts again, because all the other clubs will try their best to try and start keeping up with them, won't they?
Yeah.
Like Cities, Chelsea's, Man United's, they're just going to follow suit and leave the rest behind even more. That's my fear. I would love the whole, transfer system and player wages to come back to normality, but it's only going to take that one buy.
Yeah, that's right.
For the rest to start, oh shit, we can't let this happen, and try and start keeping up the Joneses again.
Well, the way football finance has gone, Premier clubs are in trouble, and that's because whatever money they get, they spend, because they're trying to keep, as you say, keep up with all the other clubs. So they don't want money in the bank, apart from us, I suppose. They want to actually, keep up with all those other teams. Because if they don't do that, they come down the division.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, a few months ago, I don't know if it was before this lockdown or after, but my suggestion was that instead of FFP, when these new people come in and buy the clubs, whoever it is, they should put down a bond payment which is kept in some kind of trust. But I can't think of a word for it, but want of a better expression, like some kind of trust fund type thing, whereby they put an amount of money down which covers the club in the advent of them either going broke or just walking away from the club or whatever. If to protect the club from going bust, they should put the amount of money in to cover the club for 2 seasons. That covers all the players' wages and all the running of the club. And if they go bust personally, or if they decide to walk away, then that money's just gone. And at least then that club ain't going to go bust. And I think it's the only way of putting off people that physically can't afford to buy the club, or just it'll put people off buying it unless they're deadly serious, won't it? And I think that something like that would help the future of football.
My sympathy with Premier League clubs is limited. I know some are going to be in dire financial difficulty, Bournemouth, Brighton, and so on. But look at the lower leagues. I mean, that's where we should be. That's where our sympathy should be.
Oh,
Championship teams. I don't know how some teams in League One and League Two are going to survive. No, I really can't see it. With no games going on, because they rely on gate receipts.
Exactly. They got no Sky money coming in.
Not happening. No.
Very sad.
European Cup. No, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. There's big money in the Premier League. We're not poor. We're rich. And but those that I think we could easily be reduced to 2 or 3 divisions instead of 4 at the end of all this.
I can. I mean, there's a lot of talk about changing the lower leagues to north and south. Splitting them geographically. Who knows? Who knows what could? Yeah, there is. But there's going to be other teams that take the place of Bury, and I think Real went bust recently as well. That's very, very tip of the iceberg, and there's going to be loads of clubs, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Ray's put, will Lacazette come back like year one, or will he be like last season?
I think he's probably one of the players who looks to move on, won't he? He's one of the players who looks to move on, because we could get decent money for him. And last season he had a shocking season, didn't he? By his standards.
I think it's a shame if you could find a way of playing Lacazette and Aubameyang together and get the best out of both of them. It would be quite magical, but it's a real shame. It's not really happened.
No,
he's lost his confidence though last season. He lost his first touch was, and everything he tried, it just wasn't happening. No, he just once a player loses confidence, perhaps the break is good.
It can come back, it can come back. A couple of goals,
Yeah. I think that people don't take fully into account players' private lives either in these situations, because it's been well documented that he's had issues in his private life, and that could really knock you, can't it? It can really, mental health, and it's very prominent in the headlines a lot nowadays, but it can just be quite demoralising when you're in that sort of mess in your private life. It's going to affect your performance on the pitch.
I don't know anything about his private life. What's been going on?
Well, it's out there on Google, but yeah, he was caught with his pants down basically with a young lady who worked in a nightclub or whatever, and it was going on for a long time, and he was it's all found out, unfortunately.
That's self-inflicted though, Andrew.
Sorry?
Is he self-inflicted though? It's
of
not
course
as if
it is. Absolutely, I don't feel sorry for the guy. But
exactly, no sympathy at all.
It's going
is he married?
It's going to affect.
He
was.
Married?
Yeah, he was.
With kids.
Anyway, I don't. Yes, I think so. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure, but it's going to affect his performance.
That sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, if you're
on the pitch anyway, not in bed,
that will affect you. I mean, divorce is very painful, and it's emotionally draining. Yeah.
Absolutely. But that's not our problem, is it? Unfortunately, we need him to perform on the pitch, and if it's, I hate to be a ruthless person, but like you said, Melvyn, it's his own fault, and we can't just carry people, can we? I'm afraid. Now, I haven't done this in the last couple, but I don't know whether you guys thought about it. I did actually put it on the details I sent across to you prior to the show. A luxury item they choose on Desert Island Discs. Now, it could be anything that you think of. Now, I don't know if you've ever listened to Desert Island Discs or whatever, either of you at all. But,
of course, yeah.
what would your luxury item be that you take with you? I'll go to you first, Glenn.
Oh, easy. Complete works of Shakespeare. Easy.
Yeah.
Although I have got an Arsenal-related one. If you hang on, go to Melvyn. I'll come straight back.
Yeah, sure.
I think. Well, I didn't see that in the actual message you sent me.
Doesn't matter if you haven't. Don't worry about it. And
there will have to be obviously some form of books on the basis that there's no electricity there.
No, exactly,
so
exactly.
Books. Can't think at the moment.
What did you bring back, Glenn?
Well, my daughter bought me for Christmas this bottle of Arsenal vodka.
Oh, wow.
So my luxury item would be an endless supply of Arsenal vodka.
That's fantastic. Have you tasted it?
Yeah, it's all right. Not bad at all.
Do you know who it's made by?
About 90 minutes, that bottle, does it?
What's that?
Does it only last 90 minutes, that bottle?
Yeah, but you get it endlessly refilled on your desert island.
That's fantastic.
What I would
like
take, the book, I've read 3 books. The first one was called The Killer Artist. It's about a guy who's a spy and he's also an artist as a front. And he's a proper artist as well. And there's about 21 books, all with different titles. And I've read the first 3 and they're amazing. And I don't know how none of them are in a film. They're really good. So I would take, I think it's about 23 of them. I would take them with me.
Fantastic. I'm really bored. I would take a Swiss Army knife, which got everything on it, and I would start teaching myself properly how to make, things out of wood. Like a chessboard or something like chess pieces. Everything. I'll try and make a beautiful house out of wood, and I'll try and become fantastic at carving. I think that's what I'll do. Now, quickly before we finish off some of these comments on here. Ray says he loves Fever Pitch. What a wonderful movie. I totally agree. The book's better, though, I believe. Chambers is a good squad player, like we said. I agree. The only way we splash 50 million on a player, says Stan, is this window, is if we pay on HP. Well, we'd always pay on HP, Stan. You know that. If a club are unable to back Arteta financially, are you saying the club should support our coach with patience? Oh, absolutely. But the worry I've got in that case, Ray, personally, is that he could quite easily be tempted away. Because people are going to be going around like vultures, aren't they? And I think he's already enhanced his reputation even more than it was because of what he's done. And I'll just be seriously worried about losing Arteta. And I think if we, as a club, allow that to happen, then we should get rid of the guys that are making these decisions. Personally,
we can't, Andrew. That's another. You'd have another program on that. We can't.
Oh,
yeah,
mate. Honestly, I'd be devastated if we were so stupid to lose Saka and lose Arteta. Just
people were
how
saying,
disappointing would that be?
People were saying on the pods I've been on, like I'm on Sunny TV Arsenal, and we've had this discussion a couple of times. They're saying if we get rid of Aubameyang, it shows you've got no future, we've got no aspiration. I reckon if we get rid of Saka, that's 10 times worse.
Oh, I totally agree. And Matt and Martinelli. Well, you can name pretty much a lot of our youth players.
Saka, one. It just shows that we'll give up then. We just give up. We'll feed a club.
Yeah. And when I say about the guys making the decision, we have to get rid of them. I'm talking about Raul mainly. The little fat Danny DeVito lookalike, or Jim Royal lookalike, if you've seen him lately. He's the guy I've got no faith in, unfortunately. He was going to give Unai Emery a 3-year contract after the Europa League final.
Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. He wanted to give him a new contract.
I didn't know that. Oh, yeah.
That made my belief in him, disappear completely. Yeah. I've got none. I've got no belief in the guy. because that really worried me. Really worried me. That did.
Yeah, that is true. Then he's the wrong man for the job.
That was after the the Europa League
The
final.
wrong man for the job.
So that says it all to me. So I've got no faith in that guy. I just really hope that Edu uses his relationship with Arteta, which is very strong, and I hope that they work together really well. And another thing, just quickly, I know we've got to wrap up, but Raul's relationship with all these super agents as well, and I think we're going to be shocked when we see the amount of money we've spent on agents' fees over last summer.
Andrew also, he's got all these relationships with all the agents and just with the agents that he knows. Our window is much smaller to choose all these players.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we get given. We buy what we're given. We don't go out and find.
Do it.
No, that's worrying as well. So that, along with the decision that he wanted to make, really worrying me about that guy. Really do. So no faith in him whatsoever. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up there. So have you guys got anything else you'd just like to sort of bring up that maybe that we've been discussing? Anything else that you'd like to add on to anything before we go?
No, I just round up what you two have just been saying. We've got to keep Arteta. I think under Arteta, the future's bright. We've got some fantastic young players. Our team is relatively young, and it's not just the youth team players that are coming through, but it is players like Martinelli, Guendouzi, and so on. I mean, Martinelli is going to be phenomenal, I think. And, if we have any ambition at all, then we've got to make sure we keep them and we keep Arteta. Otherwise, I agree with Melvyn. We may as well just give up and settle for mid-table mediocrity for the next few years. That is not acceptable. Not going to happen. I'm sure we will keep Arteta, and I'm sure we'll keep those players, and we'll go on to great things.
Yeah. Now, one last thing I'll quickly go on to, if you two are okay, just for one more. I'm worried as well. How would the club now, realistically, even try to keep Aubameyang with an improved contract in the current climate? Again, after asking everyone to take pay cuts and everything. How would that work morally?
Football is not a moral game, though. It's not about morals, it's about football. I mean, it's the only...
Yeah, but it's different now, though, isn't it? I mean, it should be. No, hang on a second. I'll rephrase that. Shouldn't it be different now, though? Because of everything's happening? I mean,
if we can't
could you really give him a rise? Really?
No,
I mean,
we've got to keep him. You know that. We've got to. As much as he might love or not love the club, if he doesn't get a bigger contract, his large contract at the top level, he's not going to stay with us. He's not in love with us like that. He'll be off. And I don't blame him. If he wants European football, if he wants more money, and we can't give him that, fair enough. I'm not worried about him going. I'd love to keep him another 2 or 3 years, but it won't break our club, in my eyes, if we get rid of him. It'll break my heart if we get rid of people like Saka and Martinelli.
Me too. And I think that... Did you see the telephone call that Ian Wright had with Arteta a few days ago?
Fabulous.
Now, I totally agree with Arteta when he says that you should never have to try and beg a player to stay or join. Yeah. We are the Arsenal. If they don't want to stay, if they don't want to join, just because of the fact that joining a club like Arsenal is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for so many people, then let them go. As far as I'm concerned, let them go. Let them go. I don't care. We are the Arsenal, and we're bigger than any player, any manager, whatever. We will still remain. So I've got no issue if players say, "Oh, I want to have Champions League football." Well, get us to the Champions League then, mate. That's what I say. Just get us there. Because we're not out of it either, and when you got these players saying, "I'm going to leave for Champions League football," well, that to me is really annoying, to be perfectly honest. If you're good enough for the Champions League, you should have got us there in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, when it comes to money, I know we all like to get the most money when we join an organisation, but there's got to be the hunger and desire there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Money shouldn't be the total picture. It should be 50% of the picture.
And that's why I'm quite confident in Saka staying anyway, because I think he will be able to see how bright the future could be under Mikel Arteta. And Ray's put that he's had so many assists. Sorry, I got that noise again. I don't know where it's. Yeah, Ray said that he's had so many assists for Saka this season. What's his best position, winger or left back? And he's the winger. He's not a left back. He's filling in at left back. As good as he's been, I can't wait to see him in front of Tierney. And whilst they're so young, I'd like to just see Saka and Martinelli a bit rotated on that left-hand side. And I'm very excited to see Tierney come back into the team fully fit. I think that'd be amazing. Martinelli or Saka in front of him.
That left-hand side will be our next left-hand side for the next 7-8 years.
Amazing, I know. And I'd like to see, possibly, if we could play more with the wing backs, I wouldn't mind seeing Reece Nelson on the other side in certain games to give him a try there, because he played that position a lot for England youth and the under 23s and under 18s.
Instead of Pepe.
No, it's a wing back with Pepe in front of him, because what Pepe needs more than anything is someone to overlap on the right hand side. He hasn't had that. He needs someone to build up a good relationship with, because I've got a lot of faith in Pepe. I really have. And I think it's just taken him an awful long time to settle, which we don't like. But his quality's there for all to see, as far as I'm concerned. And if he could build up a great relationship with someone on that right-hand side, overlapping him, crossing with his right foot, I could be positive. I really hope, more than anything, that we see a fully fit Bellerin come back after all this, because he hasn't been. I think it's been clear to see that he's not
lost
fit.
his pace. Lost his pace, absolutely.
I don't think that he's lost his pace particularly. I just think it takes an awful long time to come back from that kind of injury, and I think that we've underestimated it.
Yeah, true. But I think that if the last few games he played, his first, when he got the ball, the first thing he did is give it backwards, give it sideways. He wasn't looking forward, and that's all confidence with me.
Very much so, because that is part of the coming back from the injury is mental issues. And the pace aspect of it is that as well. And lots of cases, because a player is worried that it's going to happen again, subconsciously or consciously, and they don't want to take those sort of quick twists and turns or go at full pelt, because they're just really worried about it going in again. And it just takes time to build that confidence back, because I've heard of interviews in the past with surgeons who've carried out that procedure, and I can't remember what the Arsenal women's name. There's an Arsenal player in the women's team who's had the injury twice, and fully explained that she did a rehab with Bellerin as well, and Holding, and explained that is the main problem, is having the confidence in your own body to come back properly, and it does make a difference, a big difference mentally. So anyway, we've overrun, which I normally do. If you're probably used to my show, I do apologise for that if you are both got things to do, but I really appreciate you coming on. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too. I hope we'll see you again soon one day.
Absolutely. So Glenn, thank you.
Thank you ever so much. Really appreciate it. Melvyn,
enjoyed it. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks very much. I really enjoyed it, and very interesting, isn't it? Interesting.
Now, both of your contact details are in the show notes as well, for your Twitter handles, etc. If people want to follow you. Thanks again for people watching. And thanks to the people that are listening to the audio version of this podcast, which is always available on all the major platforms. So please make sure you like, subscribe, etc., and tell your friends. I'd really appreciate it. So thanks very much for watching, listening, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Show.